So essentially, welcome everyone to the LinkedIn Lead Gen Masterclass. The idea is to help you acquire 5 to 10 new B2B clients every month using cold prospecting, marketing automations, and sales, right? Currently, I'm working as the head of startups at World Trade Centre Pune. Uh, Prior to that, I was a crypto marketing leader for an international crypto exchange based out of Dubai. I've been mentor and investor to dozens of companies. I was a VP at our ventures, helping startups raise funds. So, I have a lot of thorough B2B experience. Almost 8 or 9 years back, I was regional sales manager for Johnson and Johnson, handling entire North region. After that, I was working with Paytm during demonetization times when I was the RSM for the West region, handling all the payment spaces, acquiring B2B clients for Paytm, right? So that is my core background in the B2B space. So I used to work a lot in the B2B space to, right from say middle level managers to senior level CFOs, CMOs, directors, CEOs, etc. And I'm familiar with the complete journey end to end of what it goes in terms of customer acquisition in the longer run. So, firstly, I would like to welcome everyone for this session. You are going to be getting best support and all-in-one growth systems over here, all at SMB Hackers. So SMB Hackers is another of my software companies which I'm running parallelly. It's an all-in-one marketing automation software, the details of which I'll be sharing to you, by the end of the call. So before getting started, I have something really cool to share with you. The opportunity to kind of work with me, at the end of the masterclass. So, you'll have an opportunity. You'll get to work with me, and you'll have an opportunity to kind of figure out how the entire thing works, right? And we are going to be doing a lot of hands-on working with you during the process. So I'm going to be sharing with you. If you stay till the end of the day, you will figure out, how the entire process is going to work out. So definitely stay tuned because I can assure this is going to be worth your while. So lots of valuable information is going to be shared today. So firstly, I would like to know, are you facing lead generation or sales problems in your business? If it's yes, can you type why in the chat so I know if you're facing these problems in your business right now? Mukund says yes. Anand, Ramesh, Kunal, got it. Abhinav, Ishan, got it. So definitely, it's a huge problem, right? Are you kind of satisfied with the way your business is operating right now? Do you think it's operating at its full potential right now? Yes or no? Do you think is your business right now? No, no. Mukund is saying no. Rajnish is saying no. Got it. The reason why most of these things happening is, and this is another second problem, right? Are you tired of working for vampire customers who are never satisfied and never pay on time? As in, these guys, they are the customers who would suck the blood out of you. They won't pay you on time, and at the end, they act as if they are, doing a favor on you. That's how they typically operate. So, are you tired of such kind of vampire customers? Do you have such vampire customers who, take so much of your time and they completely, kind of uh, they occupy so much that you are unable to grow? So, fortunately, Rajnish has not had such kind of vampire customers, but Mukund is saying all are vampires and zombies. So typically what tends to happen is, when we are working, uh, the reason why we feel like they're vampires and zombies is because uh, we have so few leads and customers, so few appointments, right? That's why we tend to get desperate and we pretty much end up working with, whoever is willing to pay us, right? I'm sure that must be the case for a lot of people that you end up working, just anyone is willing to pay you, you just take them on board, then you realize what a big mistake that was. But since they're paying you, you are unable to say no to them. So the only way to say no to such kind of customers is that you have such a huge inflow of leads and appointments that, it doesn't really matter if you don't work with these guys. So that is how, you need to change your systems of your business to ensure that you get that kind of, lead follow up so that you don't have to depend on them. So this is what running a startup feels like, right? I was a part of the left circle, the corporate side. I was working like a hamster wheel, right? So I'm sure if you any of you have had corporate experience in the past, you must have felt like you're running on a hamster wheel, where no matter how much hard you work, the promotion, the appraisal cycle at the end of the year is only 10 to 15%. And your earnings potential is completely capped over there. And on the other hand, if you have been in the startup phase, you must be feeling like you're in the right stage. Who resonates with this picture that your life is kind of like this right now? That it feels like you're pushing a boulder up the mountain. Exactly. Exactly. So I'm seeing a lot of messages in the chat here. Abhinav is saying I do. So this is exactly what the startup life is, right? You're stuck between the corporate life and the startup life, and you're not able to figure out what can be done over in this situation. So that is what the essence of this program is going to be. So you know how to acquire 5 to 10 new B2B clients every month using LinkedIn marketing automation and sales. So as I mentioned, I used to head marketing in two separate crypto exchanges. Both of them were based in Dubai. I was a VP at R Ventures, regional sales at Paytm, regional sales at Johnson and Johnson. Currently, I'm the head of startups at World Trade Centre Pune. And just last weekend, I was invited to IIT Bombay as a part of an investor panel where I was working with a lot of renowned VCs in the ecosystem. We were together curating startups in a Shark Tank kind of pitch format where we were evaluating startups over there. So pretty interesting kind of work that we do right now in terms of helping startups with the international expansion. So that is how we are operating primarily. That is how the responsibility I'm operating. So would at this stage of your business right now, this is the number one important aspect that we have, right? Would your target ICP, ICP is the ideal customer prospect, would they get on a discovery call with you? This is the number one thing which we need to kind of think about, right? That is your target ICP, is your profile compelling enough? Is your offering compelling enough for them to get on a discovery call with you? That is the number one area which we typically tend to we want to ensure that the target ICP is interested. And there is a series of steps and processes which you need to go to ensure that they would be interested in that. So essentially what you're going to be learning in the workshop today is how to optimize your LinkedIn profile, how to set up a marketing automation system, how to generate content for LinkedIn using AI, how to prospect clients on LinkedIn. These are going to be the four major pillars which we're going to be covering today, and the broad strategy of what it's going to be in terms of covering everything, right? So these are some of the key outcomes which I have right now. Over 9,000 LinkedIn B2B professional connections, and most of them are startup founders and investors and VCs and accelerators, right? So these are very qualified, very cream kind of connections which I have, and I actively don't connect with people who are not relevant to my profile. So I literally have like hundreds of connections which I receive every week, which I don't even accept because I want to ensure that I'm only connecting with people who are relevant to my profile and actively not connecting with people who are not relevant to my profile. I've acquired leadership roles in several global companies. I've been an advisor and investor to dozens of startups. Uh, I've closed 10 major clients like HealthSpring, Wellness Forever, Nanavati Hospital, HN Reliance Hospital. If any of you are from Mumbai, you would recognize these names. Richfield in just 6 months at the young age of 25. I've closed these major clients. I was discussing with CEOs, CFOs, directors in these large companies. So to kind of, when you're looking into this, right, the number one thing, if you want to move forward, is the importance of mindset. To become like $1 million entrepreneur, become a crorepati entrepreneur, you need to become that way as well, right? The number one difference which I have noticed in terms of, the successful businesses and the unsuccessful businesses, right, is the importance of mindset. Uh, the mindset of the business of the entrepreneur who's already doing like a few crore rupees a year or $1 million a year, they have a completely different mindset compared to business owners who are still at sub 1 crore level. Some at 25 lakhs, some at 50 lakhs, some at 75 lakhs a year. So this is going to be the most important thing, kind of level up your mindset, right? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Apparently, this was a quote by Einstein. I'm not sure how true if Einstein said this or not, but it's extremely famous and definitely extremely true. That we seem to be doing the same thing over and over again, and we're expecting that we'll get different results, which doesn't make sense whatsoever. And you need to be willing to change yourself. You need to be willing to change your identity to become $1 million entrepreneur so that you can get better results. If you continue doing the same thing and if you want to, cling on to the old ways, you'll never be able to achieve new results for your business. So having that change mindset is extremely important. Does anyone know who this guy is? Can anyone let me know in the chat who this person is? Mr. Rajnish is right. Absolutely. Anyone else know who this is? Picture is not visible. Is the picture visible, guys? Rajnish was able to identify who the person is. Anyone else know who this is? Yes, everyone is able to see. Great. Okay, Ramesh is logged in mobile, that's why. Yep, some people have guessed it right. So this is Mr. Harsh Mariwala. Anish will get the prize at the end of the session. So this is Mr. Harsh Mariwala. He's the chairman of Marico. I'm sure many of you must know Marico, or if not Marico, at least the companies, the brands which he's revolutionized, right? So he's the founder of Parachute, Safola, which are huge company, huge products in the FMCG space. And the amount of the genius that this man had. He started from a very traditional Bombay oil company, which was pure, simple oil distribution company. His family was in the oil distribution business called the Bombay Oil Company, and he turned that commodity business into a huge brand of Marico in the form of Parachute, in the form of Safola, and they are one of the largest FMCG companies today, competing with the likes of Hindustan Unilever, Procter and Gamble, ITC, etc. Single-handedly started his journey in 1990, and today he's reached that stage. And this kind of shows the importance of that even a commodity B2B business can be turned into a big brand. And surprisingly, he's actually of my own community as well. So we had met in a community gathering when I was just kind of starting my corporate stint, right? So a very interesting story. He told me something at that stage when we met. What were the major reasons why he was able to kind of break through and generate these results, while most in his family members, most other people in our community were still stuck with the old ways, right? Why he was able to, why he was different. And the number one lesson that he taught me was that you need to understand the importance of investing in your own business. Now, as simple as this sounds, this is extremely valuable, and most people don't do it properly. You need to be willing to invest in your business so that you can grow your business. And this comes in a lot of forms. Like, you need to invest in the growth of your business in terms of actively getting more customers. You need to invest in hiring the best employees. When he was started hiring in the 1990s, he was competing with the likes of Pepsi, who had just recently entered India at that time. He was competing with Unilevers. He was competing with PNGs, the ITCs, who would go to the best B schools within India. Like Nasi Munji, where I went, and he would go to Nasi Munjis, he would go to Jamnalal Bajaj, he would go to IIMs and with the best, compete in the best B schools, and hire the best employees, and he was willing to pay big money. He was willing to invest in hiring the best marketing agency because they could get the work done. So he was willing to hire the best market researchers who would give him consumer insights on the ground. So that highlights the importance which he understood that you need to understand your customer extremely well in order to kind of take it to the next level. And if you don't invest in these kind of things, it doesn't kind of make sense that how you'll be able to grow. That's why investing in these things is absolutely vital. And in the 90s, he would invest 20% of his revenue in new product innovation, and he does that even now. And he's expanded it to so many categories in form of oats, and several snacks as well, where Kellogg's typically dominates. He's creating new product categories and expanding through that areas as well. So where Parachute and Saffola used to be 90% of their business till about 15, 20 years back, now that's only 60%. And the newer products are kind of growing and expanding the company. So he would invest 20% in new product innovation and 20% of his revenue in sales and marketing. Imagine a giant, 5,000 crore revenue company investing 20% of their revenue in sales and marketing. That itself says a lot about, the importance of investing into your business. So don't think transactional, think value creation. The, the number one difference between a successful entrepreneur and an unsuccessful entrepreneur is the difference in the value creating that you have. The delta of value creation that will determine how successful you are. So what's the number one objective of any business? Is to grow the business, right? A lot of times I see the entrepreneurs, they kind of get stuck in smaller petty issues instead of focusing on the bigger picture. That in the end they need to focus on growing their business. So there tends to be a huge disconnect over there. So the question is, are you a $1 million entrepreneur? That's the $1 million question. So I'll share you some of the traits of what a $1 million entrepreneur is. That will give you a highlight, and you can then kind of do the introspection of, are you ready to kind of go to the next level? So you need to have a millionaire mindset. You need to be willing to think big. You need to be willing to invest in your business. constantly upskill yourself, constantly upgrade yourself, constantly, become become at a level where you are kind of growing, mentally as well. And the results will see in your, you'll see the results in the business as well. You need to have a growth mindset. Don't think in terms of, problem is, in our Indian ecosystem, we tend to be very, risk averse, that we think ki nuksan nahi hona chahiye. We tend to be very careful, very protective, and because of that, instead of, thinking of the bigger growth mindset that we would have, we are more in, instead of thinking how big we could win, we can think of, from the loss protection, loss prevention mindset, which is a very negative mindset if you're looking to grow your company. Invest in growth skills. That's an extremely vital thing to have as well. You need to constantly upgrade your skills so that you become $1 million entrepreneur. You need to invest in growth in terms of marketing, sales, product development, etc. Visualize your success. I cannot stress the importance of this. Uh, I'm not sure if you've heard of the name Tony Robbins, and this is kind of, his secret sauce which he has done. That unless you visualize your success and make it crystal clear, right, it's practically impossible to kind of grow your business and become successful in the longer run. And you need to put in the reps. Essentially, if you need to constantly do the hard work on a day in, day out basis to ensure that you get results, right? There is no such thing as get rich quick. There is no such thing as passive income. Passive income comes once you have active income. You need to have active income so that you can have passive income. If you don't have any active income, thinking of passive income is a dream. So you need to put in the reps. You need to constantly show up on a daily basis to kind of get the work done, and focus on compounding improvement. If you do the same thing over and over again and improve just 1% on a regular basis, by the end of the year, you'll be 32 times better than you were at the start of the year. And that is what, you need to think about in terms of growing yourself. So let's come into the details. Let's come into the meat and potatoes of it, right? Where actual tangible things, what you can start implementing on a regular basis. So will your LinkedIn profile attract your ICP? That's the number one question, right? If someone sees your LinkedIn profile, are they truly attracted to it? That, that I want to send them a message to reach out to them, see if that makes sense or not. There are some key pointers which you need to be think about for this. Firstly, is your profile photo attractive? Is it smiling? You have a warm face where people like to kind of reach out to you. Is that kind of taken care of properly? That's extremely important in terms of, getting the approach, getting someone to approach you, or even when you are approaching someone, for them to kind of accept the connection request. Getting the headline right, right? So every LinkedIn profile at the top, they have a headline option where you share details about what you do. So are you using that space properly? Are you communicating the right value proposition over there? That is extremely important to kind of set it up properly, that people are attracted to that. The header image at the top of your personal image, right? You need to have a compelling header image at the top so people understand what exactly you're about doing. You have an option for an about summary where you share the details about what you do and what your business is, what your past experience are. So each and everything on your profile, right? It is, you need to use it efficiently to kind of communicate, what you're offering to the customer, what the benefits are to the customer, and how you can help them. You even have the option to share your work experiences. Uh, just today, I got a connection request from a person with 15 years of experience, and they've essentially, they've literally added no experience details over there. And I'm like, why should I connect with someone who's not even bothered to kind of, fill those details? How can I trust that person? What the agenda is? Why is he reaching out to me? I have no idea. So having these basic things are extremely important to get your profile, attractive. So it makes sense for someone to reach out to you, right? So this is what my profile looks like. A page over here. This is going to be a new podcast which I'm going to be starting probably in a week or two. So hence this banner I've put over here. You can see my profile page over here, right? You can see my profile pic. You can see, the headline I've added over here. Head of startups at World Trade Center, international partner at World Business Angels Forum. I help with revenue-led growth. If drop me a DM, this is a clickable button. How to get 5 to 10 clients a month. Someone can easily click that, and there are more details over here below. So you can see this, right? The difference in terms of how it could look like and how attractive someone would be. Do you think this is something? This is a compelling profile pic where people would be willing to kind of reach out to? What do you think? Can you share me in the chat? Is this a compelling profile according to you? Thanks, Anish. Thanks, Ishan. Great. Great. So this is what your profile should look like, right? If your profile looks like this, people would be more compelled to kind of look at this and kind of reach out to you. And when you reach out to them, they would be more than willing to kind of react to you as well and work with you, because it shows professionalism, it shows commitment that you're willing to put in the work. So the next point that I want to come to you is customer reactivation. Now this is the easiest way to kind of get 5 to 10 clients if you want very quickly. So a lot of the times, I would like to. So before we kind of move into the next question, right? Can you tell me how many contact lists do you have in your phone right now, or in your email list right now? How many emails or how many phone numbers do you have in your phone right now? You know, 1500. Mukund has 1 lakh. Wow, Mukund is definitely doing a lot of work. um, Anyone else? 2000 plus, 700, 800. Yes. So when was the last time that you spoke to any of them? When was the last time did you speak to any of them? Mukund is saying, my team did. Morning. Did you speak to everyone? Um, are you following up with the? Okay, Mukund has a CRM in place already. That's great. Rajnish is saying, of course not. Exactly. Um, so this is where it becomes extremely important, right? That when we have a huge list, we are unable to reach out to so many people on a regular basis. Why is that? Because essentially, if you have a WhatsApp message and you're simply communicating on WhatsApp, right, it's practically impossible to kind of get in touch with on a regular basis. So unless you have a CRM automation in place, Mukund already has a CRM automation in place, which is a great thing to do. And that is the fundamental thing, right? If you have 10, 20, 30 contacts, it becomes very easy to kind of speak to those people on a regular basis. But once you have 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 leads, right? How do you follow up with them? So you need to have a CRM and automation in place to kind of get that thing set up. So let me show you, how this entire system would work. So you need to know when to follow up, right? Typically, we tend to kind of forget to follow up to people, and without an automation system in place, it becomes impossible to actually monetize the list that we have. Just a simple list of 1,000 people can be easily worth 50,000 to 1 lakh rupees on a monthly basis if you follow up with them on a regular basis. So I recommend reaching out to everyone at least once or twice a week. At least once or twice a week should be a bare minimum follow up. And if you want to reactivate them, you need to have a very compelling offer. So if you want, so at the end of this call, I would really urge everyone to do this, right? Once this call is over, identify such 10, 15 people who do you think would be the perfect fit for your business. Create a very compelling proposition which you are confident that they would reply to, and get an instant follow-up with them and start getting on a conversation with them. It is such a simple thing, and yet we completely forget about doing that, right? So just do that, and you'll see that the people are willing to reach out, and they are more than willing to work with you. And especially since they're already within your network and they know, like, and trust you, it becomes all the more easier to start working with them. That's how easy it is. So as I said, when you should follow up, how often you should follow up, at least once or twice a week should be the bare minimum that you should be reaching out to everyone within your network. What to say when you follow up, right? That this is also an extremely important element. That sometimes you could share some of your case studies that you worked with, what results that you generated with them. That becomes a very solid thing which you can kind of share with them. You could share some informational aspects. So, for example, you must have seen my entrepreneur hack series, which I'm posting on LinkedIn and my WhatsApp group as well, right? So that you can share knowledge that way. You can share them specific news events which have been happening in the industry, right? You just use these things to kind of build the relationship on a long-term basis, and this builds familiarity. And the best part is you don't even have to do this manually. You do this through email, SMS automation, and it kind of takes care of everything. Rather than having to do it manually, all the system is automatically taken care of, and it saves you a lot of time so that you don't have to do it, individually for each and every person. And once they kind of agree to get on a call with you, to diagnose their current situation, understand what their problems is, and give them a new offer which makes sense to them, right? Just send them, identify 5, 10 people within your network whom you think you can work with. Give them a message that you're working on something new. You want to get on a quick call with them to understand what the situation is, and figure out what the custom thing is. And I can assure you that if you reach out to 25 to 50 people, you could easily get like 5 new calls just from that alone. That's how effective this is. And since they already know you, it'll be far more easier to get some results from that. So this is a very important thing which people kind of tend to forget in terms of how they set it up, right? So how to generate content using AI, right? I'm sure every one of you must have heard of ChatGPT, but how many of you are actively using ChatGPT to generate content for your business? Um, Rajnish is using. That's great. Anyone else? Mukund is also using. That's great. Mahima is using. Great. Ishan is using. That's great. So how often, when was the last time that you posted on LinkedIn with this? We use ChatGPT to create a lot of content, but we are not actively posting on LinkedIn every week, once or twice, right? So this is a big issue to kind of build a sustainable brand on LinkedIn, right? We need to be doing this on a daily basis, at least once a day, ideally 2 to 3 times a day. That is a bare minimum requirement to ensure that the content that you're posting, right, people are resonating with that. It's extremely important to kind of reach out to share your content, share your knowledge on the market, so that people are aware of the things that you're sharing. That becomes extremely, yeah, exactly, Rajnish. It might seem a little over, but that is kind of what is required to kind of grow. And once you get in a habit, right, it'll become extremely easy. You would not find it, and you would not find it problematic at all. So, and there's a specific framework that, right, you can ideate in terms of large buckets on, which topics that you want to create content on. That these are the major areas that you want to create content on. Ideate on that, then use a series of hooks to attract the ICP. There are specific ways you can use listicles, you can use carousels. There are multiple content formats which you can use to attract the ICP so that they are more interested in working with you. And if the visually it looks very appealing, then it becomes very interesting for them to watch and engage with your content. Identify content formats that you want to use, right? But these days, reels are very hot. Even though TikTok is banned, Instagram reels and YouTube shorts, they are going viral like crazy, and people are using them aggressively. ICP is ideal customer profile. So identify content formats you want to use for the content. Use ChatGPT to create your 30-day content plan, and then you can use ChatGPT for the specific each and every content blog that is there. You can use ChatGPT for that as well. I'll be kind of showing you, what the prompts look like. How do you structure the prompts in a way that makes sense, so that thing is getting the prompts right and then getting the editing right at the end, right? That's extremely important, because if you simply copy paste it, LinkedIn will recognize it's AI and they'll kind of throttle your reach. So you need to do some customization to it as well, so that people actually kind of see it. And if they don't see it, else it's going to be a complete waste of an effort. So getting an optimal prompt to get your ICP attracted is extremely vital. You need to proofread and edit the content before posting on LinkedIn, and not just LinkedIn. You can post it on Facebook as well, Instagram as well. But these, LinkedIn is like the bare minimum which you need to post on if you're a B2B business owner, right? And start sharing your personal client and career stories. Once you start sharing these stories on an aggressive basis, right, then you'll recognize, people will willingly start reach out to you, and then they'll be more interested in terms of, working with you. So this is going to be another very important, aspect in terms of how do you actually prospect, right? So up until now, before I go further, does anyone have any questions? If anyone thinking I'm going too fast over here, Mukund is saying no. Anyone else any questions till this date? Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. All good. Great. Thank you so much. So let's move on to this prospecting stage, right? This is going to be the most vital areas of outbound prospecting, of how it kind of will generate results, right? This is something which I myself learned during my Paytm stint. I would kind of reach out to the CFOs of hospitals, CEOs of hospitals, the clients which I mentioned, right? Richfield, Wellness Forever, Health Spring. I would simply reach out to them on LinkedIn, send them a connection request, and using the right method, I would kind of get on a call with them, and simply we would start the discussion. Obviously it would not close immediately, but by the end of it would take 3 to 6 months, because the clients were huge clients and they would have a lot of internal processes. So it'll take a lot of time with that, but essentially it would take the process. At the end of it, by the end of 3 to 6 months, you would see the deals close, right? So you wouldn't, if you're working with enterprise clients, the typical closing cycle is like 3 to 6 months. If you're working with small and medium businesses, local businesses, that typically tends to happen very quickly. So that is why it's extremely important. So Rajnish, regarding the CRM, I'll let you know at the end of the session. We ourselves have our homegrown CRM. I'll share the details about that, so that'll give you an idea regarding how it works. So how many new prospect calls are you having every day? So in a month, if you could share, right, how many new prospect calls, new interview, new client calls are you having in a month? Can you let me know so I get some context in terms of what the current stage of your prospecting is? 3 to 5. Okay. 3 to 5. Okay. Got it. So pretty much everyone is at 3 to 5 levels, right? So ideally, the minimum monthly prospecting calls which anyone should look at is at least 15 to 20 with a 20% close rate. So around 3 to 5 new clients on a bare minimum basis, especially if your ticket sizes are around 50,000 range. That is where kind of you consistently start growing. So that's why this prospecting thing is going to be extremely valuable to you. So typically how it works is you need to kind of get the idea of how many prospects are in your industry. So what happens is we generally tend to go very broad. So we generally tend to be very broad in terms of all the small businesses are my customers, or all startups are my customers, or that kind of thing, right? So we need to go as narrow as possible so that the prospecting becomes very easy. So getting that narrowing thing down at to the stage where you know that you have like a few thousand prospects within the industry, and you simply reach out to them. So the communication becomes very tailored. So that becomes very important. So I'm getting a message that lead qualification is an issue. So I'll need to understand your business better before I can tell you how the lead qualification works. So there are several ways which can be done in terms of how the lead qualification process is set up. So you need to essentially look at what the prospects in your industry are. Try to get them as narrow as possible, right? Ideally within 5 to 10,000 range, so that once you have that narrow prospect range, you can reach out to them on a daily basis, and ideally finish the entire prospect range of your entire industry within 6 months. That should be the target which you should look at once you have that thing narrowed down. How technical is the industry, right? So I, for example, when I used to look at it when I was working with Johnson and Johnson, right, my industry was very narrow. I used to work with cardiac surgeons in Chandigarh. In the entire north region, there were only 35 cardiac surgeons. I had to work with only 35 clients over there. Now each of them was a large client, and they would be what 10, 20, 30 lakh rupees of revenue each of them for me. So I, even if I would lose a single client, that would be a huge chunk of revenue lost for me. So that is why it becomes extremely important to be extremely technically sound and build a long-term relationship with them, so that if anyone new tries to come into the market, kind of take your space, right? The relationship capital that you've built, it becomes important to replace. In fact, to this day, I sometimes get calls from some of those doctors if they need a specific help and they want to reach out to someone in Johnson and Johnson. They send me a message, and then I connect them to a POC in Johnson and Johnson. So that is what is required. If you have like a very niche industry, that becomes very important. If you have a relatively broad or an open industry, then it really doesn't matter, and you can start bulk prospecting very easily. How technical is the offering? So as I mentioned, in Johnson and Johnson, I was in the medical devices space, which is a very niche industry with very technical offering. There are lots of technical offering in the B2B space as well, right? For example, Rajnish is in the book writing space, helping people publish their own books. That's a very technical offering. Whereas some of the others, digital marketing is fairly generic. So you'll need to customize this based on that as well. Just give me a minute. I'll have a sip of water. So getting that technicality is very important as well, so that the entire that will kind of tailor your outreach message, so ensure that that the outreach message is extremely proper. Because if your first outreach message is wrong, right, the prospects would not respond, and then essentially it will become like a huge wasted effort. Then it comes down to what's the targeted outcome of the initial outreach. So most people, what happens is, and I'm sure you must have seen this as well, right? Someone makes the first initial outreach, and they're directly trying to pitch the solution to you. So, we do this, we do that. They'll attach their PDF or something. This is a service. If you're required, call me. So do you seriously think that would work? Do you, I see a lot of people kind of doing that, and it is just so spammy that, they'll send me a message, this is what a service is. just kind of reach out to me. It just looks so unprofessional, and I cannot begin to tell you in terms of how repulsive that is. That they'll simply kind of get into that message. That is why it becomes extremely important that the to get a clear picture of of how the initial outreach would look like. Assuming you're meeting with a friend, so would at any point of time would you be more willing to work with your friend or with a complete stranger who's kind of put in your PDF or who's randomly kind of pushing the service onto you? You would obviously prefer working with your friend. That's the natural state. So the idea is you need to first build that relationship capital with them, get that comfort level where you probably may not become friend with a few interactions, but at least they become comfortable with you. You get initially they would have like a barrier in terms of kind of trusting you very easily. So your initial interactions should be focused on eliminating that barrier, or at least bridging the barrier and making it as small as possible so that the eventual jump comes when they become your client. So think about, when you meet a long lost friend after a long time, you would be more into, trying to understand the person, get into small talk, get into a more personal, casual conversation, right? That should be the kind of, outreach approach which you should look at rather than, pure kind of hard selling. So getting that thing sorted is extremely vital. And if you do aggressive cold selling to everyone, people will simply block you. And worst, they will even report you to the LinkedIn gods. And then LinkedIn gods will kind of block your account completely. And that could be the effectively the worst thing that could happen. I know people, who have like 50,000 followers on LinkedIn and, their accounts got completely blocked and, for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and, it affected their business tremendously. So that is why it's extremely important to do this in a way which doesn't look very spammy and looks very real nature, like a real conversation. So that's why it's extremely important. And you need to do some background research on the prospect as well, right? And you need to include that in the initial message as well. That when you kind of send them the first message, kind of include some of that as well, which is relevant to the prospect. So the prospectors know that you're not simply there for asking for business, and that you actually bothered to kind of get some understand about them, understand what the problems are, understand what the business is. That way, they'll be more trusting of you. And this especially works in corporate outreach. If you are working for really big ticket clients, for them, if you do like a random outreach, it's going to completely backfire, and they expect something like this kind of for you to understand what the problems are. And let me show you some examples of what not to do. I made a mistake of posting this comment, posting this in my post a few months back. Any references for a good influencer marketing agency? I have I'm pulled my ears. I'm never going to do that mistake again. Look at some of the comments that I've received over here. Let me know in the chat, what do you think about these comments? Do you think any of you would kind of respond to any of this? It looks so damn spammy that I cannot even begin to describe that, and this is, and then they would say that, LinkedIn is not effective, LinkedIn is not working, LinkedIn is not responsive. If you have this kind of response, what else do you expect? Then look at this. Let's connect. People have literally shared their numbers over here in the comments. Let's connect, let's connect, let's connect. Do they seriously expect me to call all of these people up to kind of get their response? So this is the kind of situation which is happening, right? People do not know how to do this stuff properly, and that's why it becomes a huge problem, and that's why they're not generating results. Because rather than trying to build a genuine conversation, genuine relationship, they are getting into this such kind of spammy activities. That is the huge problem. Look at these guys. They're simply got into my inbox and started sharing about this, all this stuff. So this is what typically tends to happen. Now, even though I was looking for a service provider, right? This is very transactional. Now there is a way to kind of reach out and communicate. Now, if they would have tried to build their authority first, try to build an element of trust first. That is what is required. You do not pitch your services directly. First, you need to build the level of trust. You need to build a level of authority. You need to build a level of confidence before you try to directly go into the pitch. You cannot directly try to bridge that gap and go to the end part of it. That is what the huge difference is in terms of and that is where the difference is between an average marketer and an elite level marketer. because you need to understand how do you bridge that gap so that a person will start trusting you. And I got like 40, 50 messages like this, hundreds of comments like this. It was absolutely crazy. So that is, what was the huge problem with the entire thing. Uh, Now let's come on to the marketing automation side of it, right? Marketing automation is going to be the foundational backbone of running any business, right? In today's day and age, a business essentially has uh, three components. One is what is the value creation that you're doing? What is the problem that you're solving? That is the fundamental part of any business. If you do not have a solid value proposition, no one's going to come to work with you. So getting that right is extremely important. Getting that delta in terms of value, sorting that out is extremely valuable. Next comes the entire marketing automation system. You need to have the marketing automation system in place, because once you have the leads coming in, either you are running Facebook ads or LinkedIn cold prospecting, or you're going to BNI meetings. Now, BNI is a fairly good source to generate leads as well. So, but once those leads kind of come in, right? If you don't have a marketing automation system in place, you don't have a proper CRM system in place to engage and nurture those, right? Essentially, those leads are wasted. So getting the marketing automation system right is extremely valuable. So again, coming back to how many times do you follow up with a client? Most people typically don't have a proper system in place, and that is a huge problem, right? And marketing automation system is absolutely vital to increase conversions. And you need to have at least 6 to 7 touch points needed to close a potential client. And that was the number one problem in the earlier decks which I showed. People were directly trying to close me in the first call itself. I just posted over there and they were directly trying to close me over there. There's no way that's going to happen. You need to build trust, you need to build authority, you need to get me to know, like, and trust you before they can get at that stage. So that is why you need to have at least 6 to 7 touch points, which is absolutely important to kind of get that. That is how it's going to make sense. And that is why, you also need to have like a Kanban style pipeline for leads. Is anyone familiar with Kanban system? Do you know what the Kanban style system works? Yeah, Mukund is familiar. Trello, yeah, Trello boards, exactly. So you need to have like a Kanban style pipeline for leads. Essentially, you need to have your funnel mapped out, and you need to be able to move each and every lead from one stage to the second stage to the third stage, so that you can essentially track all of them. And you need to map custom notifications at each level, right? So that you know what the last conversation was, what the follow up was, and you can track all of that. We were doing that in Salesforce when I was working with Paytm, but Salesforce is an enterprise software. For a small business, you don't need that kind of a huge software. Even regular softwares work. So, that is extremely vital to kind of track the flow of leads. You need to have a lot of automated flows as well for client follow-up before and after the meeting, right? So what this means is you set up a basic follow-up, which you must have seen the emails which I've sent you, right? Those are like the basic automated flows which I had set up for specifically this masterclass today, and also with the Zoom links that you kind of show up onto the link as well. Now, once this masterclass is over, right, I'll be kind of adding you to my entrepreneur hacks newsletter. That's going to be something which you're going to be receiving on a daily basis, where you'll get like one entrepreneur hack on a daily basis, which is something which you can kind of whether you work with me or you don't work with me, you still kind of get free value over there. So that is the idea, is you kind of figure out that I'm coming, I know what I'm talking about, and I'm not someone who's full of shit, who's just talking randomly. So that's the idea. You build that trust, you build that authority, and that's what's extremely important, right? You need to have an omni-channel flow using SMS, email, and WhatsApp. Uh, these three things are extremely valuable so that the entire process kind of gets set up. And even if you don't have SMS and WhatsApp, which are slightly on the more expensive side, email is like the bare minimum which you need to have. And also, don't follow up just for the heck of it. It'll absolutely annoy prospects. You need to have a proper follow-up system in place, right? Which should contain either some form of news or value for the prospect. Now, imagine during my Johnson Johnson days, or even my Paytm days for that matter, I would hardly have like 30 to 40 clients to work with. Now, if I would randomly ask with them every second time, third time, then now what are you thinking, sir? Now what are you thinking? Can we go forward? Is the decision done? If you simply follow up with that, that would simply annoy prospects. You need to come up with very creative ways to kind of follow up with them. You need to add them value. You need to come up with some conversations, come up with some news, some latest things which are happening. You need to be very creative in how you're setting up the follow up, so that the other person does not feel that this guy is just acting like a pushy salesperson, and rather having like a genuine conversation. That is a huge difference maker. in getting the things going. So essentially, how do you create a follow-up system, right, for every prospect that you meet? Essentially, this is the broad framework. You build relationships so that there's a trust factor built, and then you can either meet them virtually, or if you're in the same city, you can even meet them in person. But you need to keep this in mind that each and every interaction that you have, right, the idea is that you move them along the line of getting them to convert. Don't try to close them immediately until they're ready to close. If you try to force it, it's going to backfire. So this is what an automation system looks like in our software, right? Essentially, you get a confirmation mail, then you have an appointment, you get a reminder email 1 hour before the appointment, 10 minutes before the appointment. So if you're doing like a virtual calendar kind of calls, you get this appointments which you can easily set up in our software. That's how it typically operates. Now let's come to the final stage of it. I see a lot of people tend to have a problem with the actual sales conversations and how it goes, right? So how how to kind of structure the sales call. So before that, I would like to ask, until up until this stage, is everyone finding this valuable? As in, do you think is this something which is helpful for you? Something this is going to be helping you in your business? Ishan is saying yes, Mukund is saying yes, Jaideep is saying valuable. Thank you so much. I'm glad this is valuable because the idea is to kind of help in terms of a lot of these basic things, to kind of ensure that these basic things, we tend to overlook them, but getting them right is extremely important when you kind of reach out, right? So essentially, what is the coming back to the sales meeting part of it? What is the objective of the first meeting? Who knows the answer to this one? What's the objective of the first meeting? KYC, okay. Warm up, tone of customer, okay, that's good. No requirement, okay. Understand the pain areas, exactly. So the idea is in the first meeting, right? It's a completely diagnostic call. You in the first stage, the problem with most sales guys is they talk 60 to 70% of the time, and the client talks like barely 20 to 25% of the time. And that is completely opposite. Ideally, it should be the customer who's talking 75% of the time. And as salesperson, as business people, you need to speak only 25-30% of the times. You need to be diagnosing the problems, understand what their problems are. If you try to approach it as a salesperson, you are never going to close the client. But if you approach it as a consultant who's willing to solve their problems, people don't like to interact with salespeople. People like to interact with consultants who can solve their problem. So next time you approach a client sales call, right, you need to approach it as a consultant rather than a salesperson. That is extremely vital because consultants are valued. I'm sure a lot of you must be knowing, right, how much these McKinsey, BCG, Bain, these top tier consulting companies, right, how much these companies make, because they prefer businesses prefer to deal with consultants who can solve their problem. They're not looking for a salesperson. Then during that call itself, you need to do band qualification of understanding what the status of the prospect is. Does anyone know what band is? Anyone in the chat? So it seems people do not know what BANT is, right? So what BANT refers to is it's an acronym for budget. Do they have the budget to kind of pay for your service? Do they have the authority to decide the service? Do they have the need for your service? And how urgent is time? How urgent is the service? If these four criteria are not met, then there's no point. Then the person is not your client at that point of time. Now, just because he wasn't at that point of time, doesn't mean he won't be in the future, but just that at that point of time, he was not a good potential prospect for you to reach out to. And getting this qualification done in the first call is absolutely vital because that's going to, completely set the tone for the future discussions. Now, assuming they fulfill the band criteria, right? Next stage comes to the understanding what's the client current situation. So then you need to diagnose the current situation, figure out what the problem areas are, figure out what situation they are, at what level do they want to kind of um, how how serious the problem is for them. That does it going to how big the problem is, because the bigger the value problem is, the bigger money you can charge, right? So Jaydeep, that's what I discussed, right? BANT is budget, authority, need, and time urgency. That's BANT in short. So understand the client current situation, figure out what the exact situation is. You'll get the exact idea of that. Identify pains and problems. Then you amplify and sell pains. Once you identify what the pain points are, right? Then you amplify that. Then you show him that, if the problem persists, what other problems it could create and how much painful it could be in the future. That's how you typically amplify that. So once you amplify that, then it becomes a serious issue for them. Now we need to solve this urgently, because if we don't solve it, this could create even bigger problems. Then you highlight the opportunity cost, that if you don't take action, this could end up costing you this much, and you can solve it for only this much, and you show them the huge differential of what the situation is. That's how the difference works, and that is how the delta in value which I talked about, the opportunity cost versus your solution cost. And the bigger the difference is, the bigger the value prop is for the customer. And then you sell the solution. You don't sell a product, you're selling a solution. Uh, do not, generally, people are overwhelmed, we do this, we do that, all that stuff, but it doesn't really matter. In the end, you need to sell them. The buyer is not looking for your product, buyer is looking for your solution. So you need to have the distinction between the two very clear in your head as well. So, this was the overall kind of, approach which I had, the overall masterclass that I had for you, right? So do you think these strategies will help grow your business? Do you think this was helpful? Great, great, great. Thank you so much for, saying that, because that definitely adds a lot of validation for me, that people are appreciating, and finding this thing helpful. That goes a long way for me. So really appreciate that. So essentially, implementing these strategies, they will help you get more leads. They will help you generate more meetings. They will help you build your authority. They will help you acquire more clients. They will help you generate more cash flow. And once you have more cash flow, they will help you hire better talent within your business. Coming back to Harsh Mariwala's point in the beginning. In the beginning stages, it is sales and marketing which grows your business. But once you reach a certain stage, as a you transition, an entrepreneur has several stages in the stage of his business. And the initial stages, he's the operator. Next stage is he becomes a manager. At that stage, he needs to hire better talent. Then he becomes a CEO, where his job is to ensure business systems are in place. That is where this thing comes in. Once you start hiring better talent, then you see how your business is starting to grow. Transition from a trader operator person to a manager person, and then at the end to a CEO person. That is the journey. And you need to have, you need to be able to willing to make the switch from the mindset. If you were stuck in the trader mindset, in the operator mindset for your entire life, you'll never be able to grow your business. You need to be able to shift from one stage to the next stage, upskill yourself to become from a trader to a manager to a CEO. That's how go at a bigger level and focus on only important business tasks. That's how the entire thing kind of goes. And by the end of it, you'll realize that once you reach a 20, 10 20 cr kind of revenue stage for your business, right, you actually notice that you're pretty much out of your business operations, and you're only looking at big strategic things, and that leaves you a lot of time to spend with your friends and family as well. So that becomes a big plus. You must be noticing a lot of rich CEOs, startup founders, spend more time with friends and family. They are having a more comfortable life. Why are they able to do that? Because of the systems that they've put in the company. So let me kind of highlight you some of the successes which I've achieved in the past, right? I've almost done 9,000 LinkedIn B2B professional connections, leadership roles in international companies, connected with CEOs, CMOs, CFOs, of major hospitals, companies that are 25-year-old, closed major clients, like big hospital clients, which are very notorious and very difficult to close, right? So by the end of this, the idea is to kind of communicate that this is not just something random, which I'm, kind of sharing with you. These are my personal experiences, which I'm sharing with you. And I've closed like 20, 50K deals in sales when I was working for these international companies. So coming at the end of it to the tools part, right? So organic social media, that's essentially the bread and butter of what the entire session is about. Facebook, LinkedIn. you can use all of this. LinkedIn is definitely the number one priority, but you can replicate that for Facebook as well in terms of getting the results that you want. LinkedIn Sales Navigator, if you have slightly more higher budget, you can use LinkedIn Sales Navigator as well, because it is very efficient in terms of getting more information and identifying relevant prospects for your business. If you want SMS email database, right, you can use Apollo or Lucia, or even we can help you getting those database as well for your business. If you want a marketing automation tool, right, Sendinblue is an option, HubSpot is an option, or we have our own marketing automation tool, which I'm going to be sharing more details about, of how it can, you can essentially manage your entire business from our own software, the entire software that we have. If you have slightly more higher budget, and if you want to use Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads, just like many of you have reached out through my ads as well, right? So you can use ads as well to kind of come over here. That's how you can kind of grow your business much faster, because in the beginning stages, organic will help you grow and acquire your initial customers. But if you want to grow quickly, you need ads. That's what most unicorn startups which you are seeing today, they all spend aggressively on ads, and that's how they are able to grow that quickly. And that is why you need to be willing to do that once you reach a certain stage of your business as well. So next we come down to the important metrics, important KPIs or OKRs or whatever you want to call it, what that would look like for your business. So essentially at the prospecting stage, right? If you assume you reach out to 100 people, out of that you qualify them, do an initial meeting, find prospect needs, you'll find that 50 to 70% of them are the ones who kind of fit in this bracket. Those who are kind of fitting in your bracket, only 40% of them you make an offer to them. Out of them, 30% of them would negotiate, they'll haggle on the price, etc., and 20% end up closing the deal. So this should be a typical ratio which you should be looking at in terms of, and these I'm talking about are solid prospects, right? I'm not saying random prospects, So in cold prospecting, there will be one more layer on top of that, where, the cold prospects which you've reached out to, these are the warm prospects who've shown some interest in terms of engaging with you. There will be another cold prospecting conversion rate, which could vary depending on how narrow and how defined your ICP is and how your messaging is resonating with it. So, but however, the typical criteria would look like this. So the idea is the more number of people you get at the top, the more number you will get at the bottom. And that's what, as a business owner, you need to focus on. How will you get more people at the top and end up getting more number at the bottom? That's what you need to manage overall as a business owner. So getting that fundamentals is extremely important.